What's going on, everyone? This is Ryan with Automatic Comics, and today we are going to be talking about grading of comic books. Should this comic book be graded? That's on the screen right here, and also just a few little tips that can help you when you are trying to grade these books, especially if you're new to it, if you're not all that familiar with grading, because whether people like it or not, CGC, CBCS, because they generally grade the same. Okay, let's just be honest there. They generally grade the same. CGC, CBCS, they really are the standard bearer for comic grading today. It's not Overstreet. I mean, I know people like they love Overstreet. Overstreet is great. It's a great reference. But when somebody asks you what a grade is on a book, what they're asking is they're asking, what is that book going to get if I send it into CGC? That it's just the way it is today. And so not really getting into a CGC so much thing today, but how do you know if you should get this comic book graded or not? What is the grade of this book? So the person here says, still learning here about comic grading. I have this comic here that I'm thinking about whether or not to send in for grading. If you look on the spine, you will see some ticks. In the last picture, you'll see a little discoloration on the right leg. What do you think the assigned grade could get, assuming everything else is good? So the first thing here, because I think this is something that maybe just needs to be said if somebody is newer to grading. This person only provided pictures of the front cover. You have to look at the back cover. Now, I know the interior matters as well. We're just going to assume there's nothing deal breaking on the interior, that it's all complete. There's nothing that's been cut out. You do have to check that stuff as well. We're just talking about the front and back cover because that is the primary driver as long as the book is complete. And so they did not provide any pictures of the back cover. So in reality, there could be a crease that goes, the full length, or a big angle along here, or you could have a bunch of missing pieces on the back or something. I mean, it could be all kinds of crazy stuff. And so that could affect the grade significantly. So if you are going to be sending out pictures for somebody to evaluate a book for you, always include the back cover. Just that's the first thing. But if we're looking just at the front cover, what grade do we think that this book will get? So we'll look a little bit closer. We'll zoom in on this one a little bit and just kind of get an idea what's going on with this book. So we're not going to start with the spine. We'll get to the spine at the end because that's really where most of the damage is. And if we look along the top edge, there's really nothing to write home about. Maybe a little bit of a soft corner in the upper right corner, but really nothing that bad. Right edge, again, I don't really see anything going on with this book. Nothing that's, no creases, no tears, nothing. It looks like there's a little waviness maybe. So if you were going to get it pressed or graded, you'd want to get it pressed first. Bottom right corner, again, looks pretty sharp. And bottom edge looks very sharp. Now in the center, there is the one thing that he pointed out, right around Optimus's crotch there. We've got this stain that looks like it's about the size of a dime. That is absolutely going to hurt the grade of the book, but not nearly as much as what's going on in the spine. So that's why we're going to look at the spine first. That really is the most important thing here, assuming the back cover doesn't have any issues. It looks like there could also be maybe some writing or something, but that's not going to be the limiting flaw. I'm always looking at limiting flaws. What's the limiting flaw? In this book, it's the spine. So we say we're just going to count flaws, because when we're talking about spine ticks, that's really what you want to do. You want to count the flaws. They each count effectively as 0.1. Now, if the spine tick's a little bigger, maybe you add 0.2. So we'll say 1, then there's like a little rub thing here. So maybe that's 2, 3, tick here, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm going to say this is maybe 2, 13, 14, 15. This is another big one. So 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. This is a big one. Probably like 3, 2 or 3. We'll just be generous. We'll say it's only 2. Well, because there's one here too. So we'll say 3. So we're at 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, and then 28, 29, 30. So I think I reasonably see 30 spine ticks. Okay. So if everything else on this book was perfect, it might have a shot at a 7.0. But everything else on this book isn't perfect. We do have this stain that's in the center too. That's definitely going to detract from the book. And, there could be a couple other little things like that, maybe whatever this writing is here, because it doesn't look like a date stamp. I don't know if it's actually pen or if it's color lift. There's also a little bit of something going on his leg here, which isn't normally on this book. So I don't know if that's a little color lift as well. So I'm just going to detract a little more from this. I'm going to say this book would probably, if it was pressed, get a 6. Somewhere around a 6. I think that's a very reasonable grade for this book, assuming the back cover is pretty clean. So let's jump back over to the comments and see what the comments have to say. So down in the comments, we've got 5 to a 6. We've got a 6, a 7-0 if you're lucky. This person says a 4 with 18 color breaking ticks. I'm telling you right now, that's wrong. 6, but then because of the poll or whatever it is, they're saying 4.5 to a 5. Keep going down, 5 to a 6, 5 to a 6.5, 6 to a 6.5, and a 6. So really most people, other than the 4.0 person, they're the person maybe you want to buy books from. If you see somebody that's like really undergrading their books a lot, like this person you want to buy from, but not someone you want to sell to, because they're going to be very critical of what you're saying. But it really looks like that seems to be most people's agreement. Let's say like a 5.5 to a 6. It's kind of around where we're seeing this. So consensus here, very clear. So we jump over to GPA, look at a Transformers number 1, and we go down to, this is a newsstand. So, and again, if you're not familiar with what a newsstand is, the newsstand here has the barcode instead of having, I don't remember what's normally on this one. Let's see. Spider-Man's face. So it's normally Spider-Man's face. That's the direct edition. Newsstand has the barcode. But if we go over to GPA and we take a look at a 5.5 newsstand, last sale $64. A 6.0, $150, but rip to that person's $90. Someone paid way too much for that copy. But we've got 67, 76, 125 there. So then we've got a 6.5, $74 back in 2023, a 7.0, $85, 7.5, $110. So, this is like a $65-ish to $70 book graded. And if you're going to get this book pressed first, which I said you would want to, because it does have some waviness, it appears to it, you're going to spend, say, $20 to get it pressed. You're going to spend, this is going to fit into the modern tier. So you're going to spend, I don't know, another $25 for grading. So that's with shipping and everything, assuming you're sending multiple books. So you're going to be into this maybe $45, maybe even $50. And so now you're going to get $65 or $70 for it, or $60 or $65 for it. That's not worth it. The book is, to me, is worth more than $20 raw. And so you're actually going to be losing money by getting this book graded. So right there, not worth grading. Also, I think it's going to be about a 5.5 to a 6. But this person, you said they were new to grading. They're trying to learn about grading. And so I think one of the really good references that they can use for this is Go Collect. A lot of people, they'll use Heritage, but Heritage isn't going to sell, or almost never is going to have a lower grade Transformers number 1. They're just not selling books at that price point. And so what you're going to want to do is you'd go to Go Collect. And again, it's a fee for service, but I think it's well worth it, in my opinion. And if you go and check out different grades, you get pictures of everything. And if you look at the cert numbers, if they're high enough cert numbers, usually starting with, I think, about 4.3 and on, you can actually go to CGC's website and you can see close-up images of the book. So you can get a really good picture of it. Because, yeah, you've got pretty good pictures here. But if you really want to see good pictures, you can go to CGC's website. So now this one is a 4.0. We can see that it's bends to cover, creasing to cover, spine stress lines to cover. So let's take a close look at this one. And right now, you can already tell, just based on that corner, this one's looking a little more beat up. You've got some very obvious creasing along the top edge here. Just a little more general wear. Right edge looks pretty good. We've got some creasing and bends down in that corner. Then when we go along the spine, there is some spine wear, but maybe not quite as much as the other one. It looks like there's maybe even some rust at that staple. Let's take a look at the back cover, because you also get a picture of the back. Now we see, look at all the damage along this top edge. Now this could be on that other book too. That other book could have a lot of damage on that top edge. And that's why you need to have those pictures of the back cover. Pretty big, substantial spine ticks. If you count them all up, they're much more clear here. Looks like even some staining on the cover as well. Just a lot of bends and things you can see here. Just overall, a lower grade appearance book. Then what you can do is you can go to a 5.0. And so let's look at a 5.0 of this book. And so here's one that was graded pretty recently as well. So it's going to have grader's notes, moderate bends to cover, moderate creasing to cover, moderate spine stress lines to cover. So again, we look at close, and it's got some creasing on the top. Right edge looks pretty good. Little creasing in the bottom right corner. And it's got some spine wear to this book. And to me, like looking at these spine ticks, this looks a little worse than what we saw with the book that was on the Facebook post. Then if we go to the back cover, we've got this big tape pull here too. Honestly, like 5.0 feels a little generous for this book. I would almost say this book looks, I mean, we couldn't tell about it. Like this one doesn't have the staining. And so staining can definitely be a thing. And it looks like this one doesn't have nearly as many little kind of like creases along the edge. And so that's maybe why it's a little higher grade than that 4. But I think even a 5 feels slightly generous. I probably would have put it in the 4s, like a 4 to a 4.5 for this one. But it gives you a general idea about the look and feel of that book. Now let's move up to a 6.0. And this is how you learn this stuff. Like it gives you a very good, quick assessment of a book. This is how most people can assess a book very quickly and make a determination on the grade. Now, this one is going to be one that will fool you. This is the type of book where you can have people that might get the wrong idea about a grade and why they might think that a 6.0 actually is supposed to look way nicer than it does. Let's look at the grader's notes. Stain right bottom of cover through book. And so there's a stain on this book that we can't really see. I don't know if it's like right around here or whatever, but it sounds like if it's through the book, like it's a pretty substantial stain. Because if we look at this book, there's almost no spine ticks. There's maybe a couple little ones. Edges look really good. Corners look really good. And we look at the back cover, same thing. I mean, there's a little creasing up here, but overall, like there's like 4 spine ticks. This is the type of book that, I mean, probably because of that crease on the top, that like finger bend on the top, if you just saw this, you might think this book was like a 7.5 or an 8, but it got a 6 because it's got that stain. And so this is the type of book that can be very misleading. But then if we go and look at, say, another one, let's look at this one right here. And we can see light spine stress lines to cover, light wear to cover, moderate creasing to cover. And see here, if we zoom in, like this one's definitely got spine ticks. You can see these spine ticks here. But this one has much cleaner edges. It's got a little crease down in the corner here. That's something that's definitely going to hurt the grade that we didn't see in the other one. And then let's look at the back. In the back, you can see these creases a little more clearly, and it's got a lot of damage along the top edge there. And so this book is cleaner in terms of the spine than the one in the Facebook post, but it has all this damage along the top edge. Again, I'd probably put this more at a 5.5, but hey, I'm not gonna criticize too much about that kind of thing. It definitely has less spine wear than the one from the Facebook post, but has a lot of top edge wear. Then let's just keep moving up. Let's jump up to, let's make a bigger jump. Let's jump up to like an 8. So now we're at an 8.0 for this book. And we got to find one that was graded relatively recently. So we're going to have some pictures. And so here's an 8.0, light bends to cover, light finger bends, light spine stress lines. Almost feels like this person didn't get the book pressed first. But now we've got an 8. Now you see what you're seeing. It's like there's a few spine ticks. Got a couple there. Got one right there. One right here. The edges look really good. Corners look really good. Nothing really substantial in terms of damage on this book. And this is how you get that quick assessment of a grade. Like you look at this and you're like, okay, it's got probably 15 spine ticks. This is actually production defect along the top. This like little the 9.9 had this. So, that's not going to hurt you. These little like ripply cuts, the bad cuts on the top. But that's an 8.0, right? Now let's jump up to a 9.4. And so this is the type of thing that you can really do to help you with your grading, because it takes this time. It takes seeing these books. You can see spine stress lines, back cover breaks color. That's the grader note. And don't count on grader notes, look at it yourself. You can see like maybe there's a tick there. There's a tick. So that's 2, 3, 4. That might be the art, but I think that's 4, 5. This one's tough because some of these might not be ticks. They might be art. Everything else looks pretty good. Maybe a little crease up in that corner. Let's look at the back cover. And here we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Whew, man, 8, 9, 10. I don't know. A little generous 9.4 here. I'd say 9 to like a weak 9.2, strong 9.0. But I mean, I tend to be about a half grade, a little aggressive on mine. So, I mean, I kind of get that, but you get the idea. We saw a 4.0, we saw a 5.0, a 6.0, an 8.0, and a 9.4. And you can just see like the level of defects that change as you move through those grades. That's what you have to kind of learn as to for a quick grade, for like a quick assessment of a book. Then you need to take, the close look, count up flaws, all that kind of stuff to really get a more accurate assessment of it. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think that book that person showed is probably about a 6.0. The general consensus was, I think, about 5.5 to a 6 from the group. And like I said, from the valuation of this book, outside of this $150 sale, which, like I said, it's too bad for that person, because I mean, they just kind of like threw like $85 away. But outside of that, this book is about a $65 book, and that makes it, to me, just not worth grading, because raw, you could probably still get $25, $30, $40 for that book. And so your cost to get it graded is not adding any value to it. But that's my assessment. That's how I approach this one. If you like this video, if you'd like to see more videos like that, please hit the like button, subscribe button, notification bell, and I will see you on the next one.